The first time Daniel saw her, she was standing in the rain outside the small community bookstore on Maple Street, her shoulders slightly hunched as if she were trying to disappear into her oversized sweater. The bell above the shop door jingled behind him, and his 6-year-old son, Noah, tugged at his hand impatiently. "Dad, hurry," Noah said, hopping over a puddle. "You promised hot chocolate." Daniel laughed softly. "I did, and I always keep my promises." He noticed her again when Noah accidentally dropped his drawing folder, papers scattering across the wet pavement. Before Daniel could bend down, she was already kneeling, carefully gathering the crumpled sheets, shielding them from the rain with her own body. "I'm so sorry," she murmured, handing the papers back to Noah as if they were fragile treasures. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. "It's okay," Noah grinned. "It's just my superheroes." She smiled at that, a small, uncertain smile that transformed her entire face. Daniel felt something shift in his chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you," he said. She nodded quickly and stood, brushing rainwater from her jeans. "No problem." Noah studied her curiously. "You like superheroes?" She hesitated, then nodded again. "I guess I do." Daniel extended his hand. "I'm Daniel, and this little artist is Noah." Her fingers trembled slightly as she shook his hand. "I'm Lily." The rain grew heavier and Daniel gestured toward the cafe next door. "We're heading in for hot chocolate. You're welcome to join us. It's pouring." Lily's eyes widened as if he'd offered her something far more precious than a warm drink. She glanced down at her shoes, then back at him. "I don't want to intrude." "You won't," Daniel said gently. "Right, Noah?" Noah nodded enthusiastically. "We have extra marshmallows." Lily hesitated for a long moment before whispering, "Okay." Inside the cafe, the warmth wrapped around them. Noah animatedly explained each of his superhero drawings while Lily listened with a patience that felt rare and genuine. She laughed softly at his dramatic sound effects, and Daniel couldn't help but notice how naturally she seemed to connect with his son. "Do you draw?" Noah asked her. She shook her head. "Not anymore." "Why not?" Her fingers tightened around her cup. "I'm not very good at things." Daniel caught the shadow that passed over her face. It wasn't self-deprecation. It was something deeper, something ingrained. Over the next few weeks, they kept running into her. At the bookstore, at the park, once at the grocery store where she was carefully counting coins before placing a few items back on the shelf. Daniel learned that Lily worked at the bookstore part-time. She lived in a small apartment nearby. She didn't talk much about her past, but sometimes the silence between her words said enough. Noah adored her. He would light up whenever he saw her, running to show her his latest drawing or tell her about school. And Lily, despite her shyness, always made time for him. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching Noah climb the jungle gym, Daniel said quietly, "You're good with him." She shook her head immediately. "I'm not, I just try." "That's what being good means." She looked at him then, really looked at him, as if searching for a joke. "You don't know me." "Maybe I'd like to." Her breath caught and she turned away. "You shouldn't." "Why?" She swallowed hard. "Because I don't deserve this." She gestured vaguely between them. Daniel frowned. "Deserve what?" "Kindness," she whispered. "Love." The word hung between them, like something fragile and dangerous. He didn't push her that night, but he knew those words didn't come from nowhere. Daniel had been a single father for 3 years. His wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving behind a quiet house and a little boy who asked too many questions about heaven. For a long time, Daniel had believed his heart had closed itself permanently. But Lily's presence, soft, uncertain, unexpectedly warm, had begun to reopen it. One Saturday afternoon, Noah convinced Lily to come over to their house to help bake cookies. She stood awkwardly in the kitchen at first, unsure where to place her hands, until Noah pressed a mixing spoon into them. "You stir," he ordered seriously. She obeyed, and within minutes flour dusted her cheeks. When Daniel laughed and wiped it away with his thumb, she froze. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, stepping back. "It's okay," she replied, but her voice had grown distant. Later, while Noah napped on the couch surrounded by cookie crumbs, Daniel found Lily standing by the window, staring out at the fading sunlight. "You get quiet when things feel close," he observed gently. She didn't deny it. After a long silence, she said, "My mom used to say I was a burden." Daniel's chest tightened. "What?" "She said loving me was exhausting, that I made everything harder." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "My dad left when I was little. She blamed me for that too." He felt anger rise, protective and fierce, but he kept his tone calm. "That wasn't your fault." She didn't think so. Lily gave a hollow laugh. "When she remarried, her husband wasn't exactly kind. I learned quickly that staying quiet made things easier." Daniel stepped closer, but not too close. "You were a child." "I was a mistake," she said automatically. He shook his head. "No, you were someone who wasn't loved the way you should have been." Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. "It's the same thing." "It's not," he said firmly. She wrapped her arms around herself. "Every time someone gets close, I wait for them to realize I'm too much or not enough, and then they leave, so I leave first." "And you think I will?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because everyone does." Daniel took a slow breath. "Lily, I'm not everyone." "You say that now." He stepped forward then, gently taking her hand before she could retreat. She stiffened at first, but he didn't let go. "Look at me," he said softly. Reluctantly, she did. "You are not a burden, you are not a mistake, and you are not unlovable." Her lips trembled. "You don't know that." "I do, because I see the way you look at my son like he's the most important person in the world. I see how you put other people first. I see your kindness, your patience, your heart." She shook her head, tears finally spilling over. "I don't deserve love," she whispered. Daniel squeezed her hand. "Then let me decide that." The words settled into the air, heavy and sincere. For the first time, she didn't pull away. It wasn't easy after that. Healing never is. Lily still flinched at raised voices. She still apologized for things that weren't her fault. Some nights she canceled plans because the fear of being too much crept back in. But Daniel stayed. He showed up at the bookstore with coffee on her long shifts. He invited her to Noah's school recital and saved her a seat in the front row. He texted her good morning every day, even when she didn't reply right away. Noah, in his innocent wisdom, bridged gaps neither of them knew how to cross. One evening, as the three of them built a blanket fort in the living room, Noah crawled into Lily's lap and declared, "You feel like home." The room fell silent. Lily's arms instinctively wrapped around him. "Home," she repeated softly. "Yeah," Noah said matter-of-factly. "Dad smiles more when you're here." Daniel felt his ears grow warm. "Traitor." Noah giggled and burrowed closer to Lily. She looked at Daniel over Noah's head, her eyes shining with something fragile but hopeful. Later that night, after Noah had fallen asleep inside the blanket fort, Lily and Daniel sat on the floor surrounded by fairy lights. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know. What if I mess this up?" "You will," he said gently. Her head snapped toward him. "And so will I. That's what people do. But we stay, we talk, we try again." She studied his face as if searching for cracks in his certainty. "I don't know how to be loved," she confessed. "Then we'll learn together." A tear slipped down her cheek. "Why are you so patient with me?" Daniel thought about the quiet years after his wife passed, about the emptiness, about watching Noah grow up faster than he should have. "Because I know what it feels like to lose love," he said softly. And I know what it feels like to almost miss it when it shows up again. The words seemed to reach her in a way nothing else had. I'm still afraid, she whispered. That's okay. And if one day you realize I'm not worth it. He reached for her hand again, the same way he had the first time she tried to retreat. I won't, he said simply. She looked down at their intertwined fingers. For years, she had believed love was something you earned by being smaller, quieter, better. She had believed it was conditional and fragile. But sitting there, wrapped in fairy lights and soft breathing from the next room, she felt something unfamiliar blooming inside her chest. Not fear. Hope. I don't deserve love, she said again, but this time the words sounded more like a question than a statement. Daniel lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. You don't have to deserve it, he said. You just have to accept it. And for the first time in her life, Lily didn't let go.